Chapter 1 Dawn of Ocean Era. In this chapter, we will introduce the beginning phase of the dawn of the Ocean Providence founded and developed by true parents. The following will feature their pioneer work in the fields of commercial and sports fishing, such as fishing boat construction and other fishery businesses, spanning the oceans, rivers, and lakes to all areas of the marine industry. Wherever true parents went, one could constantly find Ocean Providence activities. It is said that True Father had invested 2/3 of his life into ocean and its related activities. There are several famous accounts of him engaging in fishing at pivotal moments. He went eel fishing right after he came out of the Hunnam prison, the labor concentration camp in North Korea. When he arrived in America and was in the process of preparing the Belvedere property, he was constantly going out fishing on the Hudson River. The very next day, after he was released from the Danbury prison, he caught a jumbo tuna in Gloucester, Massachusetts, and many others. Even within the walls of Danbury prison, a fellow inmate, Mr. Bill Shepard, later testified that many of his stories he told in prison were of his experiences while fishing. It is said that some inmates even suspected True Father to be a reincarnation of fish due to him knowing so much about fishing. There are times when one might get a false impression that fishing is simply his hobby, looking at how enthusiastically he went out to sea. Was fishing his hobby? However, as the second coming and as true parent of humanity who holds responsibility over indemnifying the entirety of human history and establishing the kingdom of heaven on earth and in heaven, do you think he would simply use up to 2/3 of his lifetime on a personal, worldly hobby and invest tremendous amount of money in it? There has to be a clear purpose that needs accomplishing through Ocean Providence, as Reverend and Mrs. Moon are the true parents of humankind. It is unmistakably clear that he had an explicit heavenly calling for Ocean Providence. This can also be seen from the childhood testimony where he used to help people in the surrounding villages by providing eels that he caught. From the very beginning, Ocean Providence activities were an important part of true parents' activities and the development of God's providence. Dawn of Ocean Providence timetable. The 30-year period between 1963 to 1993 is the dawn of Ocean Providence. This was until the year 1993 when True Father proclaimed the age of the providence of ocean hobby industry. True parents have developed and expanded Ocean Providence through a 20-year period, mainly in the USA at its core. At the same time, they held close to the activities in Korea as the foundation. In 1963, the Day of All Things was established in Korea. In the same year, the boat Cheonsung-ho was launched. In 1974, the Ocean Providence in the USA was launched. In 1978, the development of Alaskan Ocean Providence started. In 1980, Ocean Church was established and the manufacturing of 28-foot boats began. In 1987, the world's largest FRP boat was built. In 1988, the development of Hawaiian Ocean Providence began. The year 1993 marks the end of the era of the dawn of Ocean Providence. Launching of Cheonsung-ho and establishment of the Day of All Things. Let's read some of Reverend Moon's words. I built a boat in Korea named Boat of Heavenly Victory, Cheonsung-ho. What victory? Heavenly victory, of course, is where heaven has won victory because God's will had been fulfilled. I had already begun fulfilling God's will from long ago. I made the boat of heavenly victory and talked about occupying the oceans of the world. From the book, The Pacific Rim Providence, Chapter 1. 21st century is the Oceanic Era. The Day of All Things was established on top of the conditions set by the launching of Cheonsung-ho and 124 couples' blessing. This time marks the beginning of the battle to resolve humanity's hunger and food problem, recover the ownership over God's creation, and to restore the dominion over the creation through the Ocean Providence, centering on true parents. The direct conditions set for the establishment of Day of All Things was the launching of the boat Cheonsung-ho Victory of Heaven on June 26th, which signified the beginning of the victory of heaven and earth. The third blessing, the dominion over the creation, can be accomplished only on top of the foundation of the perfection of first and second blessings. Thus, 124 couples blessing on July 24th, in a sense, a conclusion to the 3 preceding continuous blessing ceremonies that signified the grandparents, 36 couples, the parents, 72 couples, and the children, 124 couples, also acted as another condition. Let us look at some notable photos from this era. Fishing led by True Father in the early days in Korea. Cheonpyeong Lake, again, he pioneers fishing in this region, starting in early 60s. Elder Moon, who had been trained by True Father in fishing from an early age, stayed and developed fishing and tree planting while protecting this Cheonpyeong area. Launching of Chonseung-ho. True parents building the Chonseung-ho. Unification Church major leaders with True parents atop Chonseung-ho. Now let's talk about why Ocean Providence was launched. First, let's talk about the connection between Ocean Providence and the restoration of dominion over all things. True Father said, every year, 20 million people die of starvation. That is 60,000 people a day. Is the President of the United States going to take responsibility for that? Will Gorbachev of the Soviet Union take responsibility? Who will take responsibility for this? Who in the world is going to do that? The true parents and the siblings of the true parents have to take responsibility for it. For this reason, all our work with the sea is something I've been planning and preparing for over the last 20 years. Why did True Father start the Ocean Providence? And how did the boat Chonseung-ho become the condition for the establishment of Day of All Things? That is because true parents are striving to resolve humanity's food and starvation problems through the Ocean Providence. Since humanity lost its dominion over all things due to the fall, we have been plagued by inherent starvation and food problems throughout our history. Even today, when we now possess the technology to go out into space, the problem remains unsolvable. It clearly cannot be resolved by the efforts of people and nations plagued by selfishness. True parents of humanity resolving the starvation and food problem is equivalent to humanity restoring the dominion over all things. The fact that Chonseung-ho was offered as a condition for the establishment of the Day of All Things points to the fact that the restoration of the dominion over all things was to be fulfilled through Ocean Providence. The realities of mankind's starvation and food problems. The food problem situation. What are the realities of the starvation and food problems of the world today? Here are some hunger facts. 1 in every 9 people, or 821 million people around the world, suffer from hunger. 9 million people die from hunger every year, and almost half of them are children. It is the leading cause of death in the world. On top of that, 1 in every 5 children under 5 are stunted due to malnutrition, causing permanent damage to their physical and mental abilities. Current resolution efforts. The United Nations Food Program provides surplus food, but the effect is temporary. Assistance from advanced nations. The advanced nations provide guidance on agriculture, animal husbandry, and commercial fishing, but these efforts see lack of actual results. The UN-sponsored Food Summit. Major leaders participate in the UN Food Summit to discuss resolution to the problem. The first summit, which was held in 1976, saw the declaration to resolve the food problem in the next 20 years. In the second summit, which was held in 1996, a declaration was made to resolve half of the food problem. However, in reality, no solution was found and the problem deepens to this day. The post-World War II rapid population growth and population problems due to modernizations around the world, global warming, environmental pollution, directly affects the food problem, which has become more and more murky and unsolvable. 80% to 90% of scientists and experts are pessimistic towards solving the food problem. Cause of the food problem. Why does humanity suffer from food problem? Its essence stems from the loss of our ability to have dominion over all things due to the fall of the first human ancestors, signifying our loss of the right of ownership toward God's created world. As a result, humanity's food problem has existed anywhere and any time in history. Phenomena such as slave labor, class society, north-south, east-west divisions, pragmatism, greed, and materialism also arose as a result of the fall. The essence of the problem is the loss of ability to govern and manage all things due to humanity's fall. As a result, mankind is dominated instead by all things. The food problem is a principal and most acute phenomenon caused by the loss of humanity's ability to have dominion over all things. This is because food is a major source of external life element and a nutrient for physical growth. According to the divine principle, humans require life element and vitality element for the spiritual body, living spirit element and nourishment including water, air, and light for the physical body. The first assumption then, in order to resolve the food problem, is to solve the problem of human fall. That is, we must completely restore the first and the second blessings, and at the same time realize the restoration of humanity's dominion over all things. After the fall, humanity was in essence enslaved by food and money. The resolution to food problem means reclaiming humanity's ownership over the creation. Full resolution to the food problem. Food includes vegetables, grains, and animal meat from land and seafood that comes from the sea. However, recent revelations from nutrition sciences point to the fact that the best nutrients for human body comes from seafood. Omega-3, recently collecting attention, is said to be only found inside seafood. According to an announcement from World Health Organization, the average life expectancy of Japanese people who are known to eat more seafood protein in general than others is one of the longest in the world. Originally, God created the world to resemble the human body structure. Just as human body is comprised of 2/3 water, the Earth's surface is covered 2/3 by water. We can speculate from this that it is healthy for a human being to live 2/3 of his or her lifetime involved with the sea, and eat seafood 2/3 of the time. In this sense, we find that the ocean can provide the best food, enough food for humanity, and that the key to resolving the food problem lies there. However, if we were to figure out how to provide the world with seafood as the sufficient and healthy chief food source, the key lies in how we can harvest such a large amount of seafood without destroying the environment. True parents have called this industry the ocean hobby industry, and a base with such industry placed by coastlines and along major rivers, the ocean hobby industry model base or city. It is a place where blessed families will live and work in. This industry will be innovated and developed by blessed second or third generations that have been blessed by God. And the completed Testament Industrial Revolution will usher in an age of ocean hobby industry lifestyle which will spawn a new system with the highest degree of productivity. By doing so, the food problem will no longer exist on Earth, and a society of interdependence, mutual prosperity, and universal values, in other words, the kingdom of heaven on Earth, will be established. Thank you so much for watching. This has been the History of Ocean Providence video series, Chapter 1, The Dawn of Ocean Era, Part 1.